welcome into the Barbershop.
Happy Sunday.
We're open late tonight. Little family time. Sitting around the Barbershop on a lovely Sunday evening. Sun goes down here in San Francisco, California. Welcome everybody in from all parts of the world. Did I see Ireland was here already tonight?
So in Vegas, there we go.
Ohio is represented already here. We've got Miami in the house. Hey folks, come on in. Aw, thanks Rob. In our research, we found out that Ben from House of Mammoth was a music teacher like me. So I had to pick out a really good song for tonight.
Yeah, no pressure.
This song I actually found at the end of an X-Files episode, for those of you who are fellow faithful for the Mulder and Scully show. And I found out, after I kind of fell in love with it, that it's not a Cher song, as I thought. It's a song by a guy named Mark Cohen. Although their versions are pretty much identical. It's a fabulous song. If you know it, sing along. Ireland, you might have to sing a little loud for us to hear you, but it'll still work. It goes like this. Put on my blue suede shoes and I boarded the plane. Touchdown in the land of the Delta Blues in the middle of the pouring rain. W.C. Handy, won't you look down over me? Yeah, I got a first class ticket, but I'm as blue as a boy can be. Then I'm walking in Memphis, walking with my feet 10 feet off a deal. Walking in Memphis, but do I really feel the way I feel? Saw the ghost of Elvis on Union Avenue. Followed him up to the gates of Graceland, and I watched him walk right through. Now securely they did not see him, they just hovered around his tomb. Now there's a pretty little thing waiting for the king down in the jungle room. When I was walking in Memphis, walking with my feet 10 feet off a deal. Walking in Memphis. Thanks, Chris. Do I really feel the way I feel? They got catfish on the table. They've got gospel in the air. Reverend Green, be glad to see you when you haven't got a prayer. But boy, you got a prayer in Memphis. Now Muriel plays piano every Friday at the Hollywood, and they brought me down to see her, and they asked me if I would do a little number, and I sang with all my might. She said, tell me, are you a Christian child? And I said, ma'am, I am tonight. Walking in Memphis, walking with my feet 10 feet off a wheel. Walking in Memphis, but do I really feel the way I feel? Put on my blue suede shoes. Bonus points if you know that song. It's one of my favorites. Hey, y'all, come on and welcome. We're so glad to see you all here tonight. Cajun Blade's here tonight. I was just sniffing my Bone Temps Barbershop a few minutes ago. That's awesome. Welcome in, folks. Our barbershop is open late tonight as we bring back our In Conversation series for this spring and summer. And welcome in a few community members and artisans to the barbershop for our group of newbies and Sloppy Badger, who is not a newbie, and answer a few questions, get us started off in this hobby right as newbies, and maybe do a few deep dives into a few little nooks and crannies of the perfuming world. So
Yes.
if Ben Esposito is out there and ready to begin, if you could request
Yes.
to be let into our
I think I saw
meeting
his here,
I
but let's,
think I saw his name go
Hope
by.
Instagram is nice to us this evening.
Right, Instagram. It sometimes works. Ben, welcome.
How's it going, guys?
Hi, my friend. Good to see you.
Nice to officially meet you.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, definitely. We've chatted a little bit, but first time being on the show, so thank you guys so much for
Yes.
having me.
Thank you for being here. I know this can be a little bit nerve-wracking, and we so appreciate the courage it takes to go live in front of all these degenerates in Sloppy Badger.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys really set the tone. I mean, that's amazing. I had a big smile on my face.
Oh, good.
And the funny thing is, too, not only did I teach music at a summer camp, I started a music program at the summer camp, but my whole family is musicians, and actually, for a couple of years, I sang in a barbershop group as well. So.
No way!
Did you really? I know you had a group, a band that you would gig with, but I didn't know you sang barbershop.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've done a little bit of everything. A lot of music in the church as well. You know, a lot of different things.
Oh, that's fabulous. Where are you joining us from?
New York. So I'm based in New York, born and raised, traveled the world, but ended up back here.
Nice.
Really couldn't ask for more.
New York is kind of a mecca for
right, but it seems like you've been traveling West Coast. I feel like I saw you tagged in San Francisco and LA, so you've been on our side of town a little bit.
Right. So you guys might know my wife Elaine is a flight attendant. So
cool.
She's a Chinese speaker, but you know we can pretty much pick up and fly her anywhere, which is
cool.
really nice as long as you're willing to sit there and wait and fly standby and maybe not get on. But yeah, so we did get a chance to go to San Francisco this year. We went to LA a week ago, which was really nice.
Yes, I do want to mention the Mammoth in the Room. I think the reason for your trip was to collect an award that you won, your most recent award in the perfuming world. For You and I Will Die. You won the People's Choice Award, Ben.
It was really a big surprise. You know, first of all, it was huge just to even be a finalist. They get, you know, over 400 submissions, they said, in just the artisan category. I think it was 650 plus from all over the world. You know, there were people there from, you know, perfumers nominated from Taiwan and China. And I talked to someone from Australia, and she was really, you know, I'm so bummed that I can't make it.
Oh, my gosh.
So yeah, it was really a fun thing and such an honor to be, you know, just one of the top 10. And so we thought we gotta go out. You know, I won the award 2 years ago, and it's really felt like such a special thing to be able to be invited back, especially for such a different fragrance, like such a different category and style of fragrance. And then a nice surprise to be nominated or to be awarded the People's Choice at the awards was really nice.
Wow.
Very cool.
Well, we're going to begin here with a question that was actually sent in by Mr. Hall.
I think he's actually here.
I think he's here tonight. How did your love for perfuming begin? Was it in the shaving soap world?
Yeah.
We know the answer
definitely.
to a few of these, but we have a lot of newbies here. So
of course. No, it's a great question. Obviously, the brand started with shaving soap. You know, that was really the origin of Mammoth. And at the beginning, we were Mammoth Soaps. And that was really all. I had no goal to become a perfumer in that way, and doing perfumery. So there is perfumery doesn't just mean fine fragrance. So fine fragrance is kind of like what you spray and you wear during the day, but perfumery covers all of those different scented products that you might have in your home. So obviously your bath soap and your shower gel and any kind of hairspray or like we have suntan lotion that has a scent to it. Well, there's a professional perfumer that developed the fragrance for that. And sometimes they're just trying to mask the smell of whatever the product, you know, itself smells like. And then sometimes they're just giving you a range of different scents. Like we have some Miss Myers. I don't know if you know the brand Mrs. Myers. Yeah. They always have some really interesting and always really well done, you know, fragrances. So I'm like, I'll pay a couple bucks more for that hand soap. It's just gonna make me smile when I use it. But yeah, so that was kind of where it started. I was just making fragrance for the shaving soap, and then people just really loved it so much that they were asking me for you know, wearable fine fragrance, like a spray for fragrance. And so I thought, all right, well, I gotta learn how to do that now. And that kind of started this whole thing.
Now, you have mentioned that you don't like marketing and you don't like being marketed to. In some very real ways, you simply let your product speak for itself, which is how we found it. Stellar reviews and ardent
Yeah.
recommendations. Now, for all of the newbies out there, can you tell us how you transitioned from a singer and a music teacher to one of the most respected perfumers in the soap making game?
Yeah, I mean, so my actual job, my real job, besides doing music, which is something that I love, I actually run the summer camp where I started
cool.
that music program. I
Okay.
got promoted up and up. So I've been doing that for almost 20 years at this point. And for me, the shaving thing was really just because a friend of mine, kind of fell into the hobby, and he was like, "You got to try it. You got to check these out." And he was having me smell the soaps and things. And
You were
so,
enabled.
yeah, somebody opened the door for me, basically, right? And that's exactly what it is. Because that's kind of how this hobby works, is it's word of mouth, really,
Right.
Some people, fall into it through like an article or something like that, but a lot of people, it's like, hey, have you heard it? And you kind of check it out. So that's kind of how it was for me, too. And so it was really just, I think, something special on the side for me, just like to exhibit some creativity, to put something positive out into the world. So I was doing my job, and like that takes one thing. But we're more than just whatever we do for our job. All of us are, right? So I've actually been thinking a lot about how most people think if I won the lottery, I would just move to an island and just
Right.
do nothing. That would be boring after a couple of weeks,
Mhm.
I think you'd be like, all right, now what? Right? So
Right.
I've always tried to think, well, if I could have control over my free time in that way, which I do, which we all do, what would I choose to do? I'd want to do something interesting, something
Yeah, we
creative,
chose this
something where
show.
you connect
Yeah,
with
we
people.
started this, so
Yeah,
we
Well,
get
that's what it is.
Because
People are like,
you
well,
chose
why do
this.
you have a YouTube show where you're interviewing people and talking about shaving soap and playing awesome music, right? Well, you hit that high note. I was like, yes, let's go.
Yeah.
But like, why?
Do you
Well, why not? I mean, why do you sit in front of the TV every night and do nothing?
Right.
Why
Right.
not put something out in the world that's interesting? But I also think that we really that challenge and fun kind of go hand in hand for me at least, and so kind of being able to work out problems and try to solve them and come up with something interesting it's just fun. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you happen to remember what your first few scents were with House of Mammoth? Like, which actually kind of started the spinoff?
Yeah, so the first release was Huga, which is still in production.
Ah, cool.
Nice.
And then Indigo was the next one.
Oh, that one we.
But the first official one, I should say, before we were really a brand, was actually Kryptonite. That was
fun.
the first one that someone actually hired me to make. And he was just a big Superman fan, and he said, I know you've only been making soaps as a hobby, but like I've tried a few and I really like them. What do you think about coming up with a scent for this theme?
And that one just
and so,
got re-released, right?
Yeah, new version.
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the green
So
one?
that
Okay.
one took the longest for me to develop a wearable perfume for. And the reason for that is because back then I didn't really know like perfumery for fine fragrance. I was just looking for a mix that would really work well in soap. And when you're formulating for soap, all you're doing is just looking for like a certain accord or a certain note to really pop out, because you can't get a ton of depth. You can get some layers in there, and you can kind of shape that note in one way or another, but pretty much it's all just jammed into one experience,
Right.
right? Because soap is what we call a non-transparent medium. It doesn't really let the scent shine through in a true way.
Right.
So I was just formulating for lime with like a lot of kind of like not too sweet, like a lot of power and freshness behind it. And so that's why Kryptonite was formulated the way that it was. But then when I started, trying to put it into a fragrance, it just kept on smelling like a cleaner,
Yeah.
product, It just it didn't have like a nice long kind of experience. It didn't evolve. It was just kind of flat, and that was it,
Right. Right.
In other countries, they don't actually use lemon and pine and stuff like that to fragrance their cleaning products. But in the United States, we do, So, yeah, I was actually I was talking to somebody recently. They were like, yeah, in Brazil, they use coconut because it's just abundant, And so they use that as cleaning products. So a lot of the cleaning products smell like coconut. So the cultural context also, matters.
Interesting.
Right.
And then the same thing in Europe. They have different scents that are popular for cleaning products.
Right.
So finally cracked it. I was finally able to figure out, like, okay, how do I make this lime into like an actual fragrance? And I was able to do it. So I'm really excited about it. I think a few folks started getting it. So
yeah, I saw a few Shave of the Days go by with the neon green
one. Yeah, the limited edition green one.
So the limited edition one actually hasn't started shipping yet. They're going to ship tomorrow. Where the soap itself is green. And the reason for that is because we had done a pre-order for it, and then we have to make it. So the pre-order closed basically May 26th, so 2 weeks ago. And then tomorrow is basically 2 weeks of curing time, and then we're going to ship
Have
it.
fun.
It'll be fun.
Where did the idea of the actual Mammoth for House of Mammoth come from?
Honestly, I was just kind of trying to brainstorm, what would be something interesting. And I was first trying to think of something maybe silly and goofy. And so I had a bunch of different, slippery elephants and, I don't remember what it was. And then a friend of mine, actually the same friend that introduced me to shaving, he was like, well, what if you just did Mammoth? And I was like, there's something about that just sounds right, So I just took it. I'm like, that's what we're going to do. And so, that's where it came from is kind of like a brainstorming process. Right. And that's part of like creativity, I think. And you guys probably know this too, as being musicians and things and creators, is that sometimes you just kind of have to like play with it until it feels right. Try stuff out, be willing to fail, turn off the little voice that says this is stupid and, you don't know what you're doing.
That's a hard thing.
Yeah,
definitely. So I'm really glad, that hit, because I think it really worked, especially in the wet shaving world. It's there's this sort of like hairy time.
No, it totally makes sense. And even worse, or even like now that it's House of Mammoth instead of just Mammoth soaps, it still fits perfectly.
Right, it'd be beautiful.
Yeah, definitely.
There's just something upscale about it. I'm not sure how to describe it.
It's almost like the Mammoth, like the high end, like just the biggest animal. Somehow
there's the elephants and then there's the Mammoth.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way. Yeah, I mean, we're also just been thinking a lot about, what's the next evolution of the brand, because we've been around for quite a while now.
And a lot more perfuming now than before.
Yeah. I mean, right now, I've been really, for a couple of years, been just pushing that, we're doing fragrances. Because, and we also have that fragrance that we put out in shaving soap and splash and bath soap and things like that. Because I think that it ended up becoming a thing that was the most interesting and exciting to me, was the fragrance side of things. And so I really want that to be the kind of like the selling point, the push. And there's a lot of brands that do, different scents and things. Not all of them do original fragrances for their soaps. And also not everyone does wearable fine fragrance. And or has to or should, it's just a thing that like I've been working at for a long time, and it's the thing that I enjoy the most right now. And so actually working right now on kind of like retooling the brand a little bit, which is why there's been some changes in the lineup, and we're moving forward to be like, okay, how do we further position this in like the next evolution?
Like it morphs with you. Yeah.
Cool. Exactly. And I love that too. For some people, I think maybe it's hard to follow, like, why would you change something that's working? But I also have a sense that if
you're an artist,
that creative side skill.
I also find like when you get stale and you're just kind of recycling the same thing over and over again, like you lose interest in it as the creator, and so that bleeds over into the work, and I think people can tell. There's some artisans who have closed, and a lot of times it's not just because of business. It's because for the last year or so, like I haven't really been interested in making soap. So I don't want to be that. If I'd rather if I'm going to close, I'm going to be like, I did what I needed to do, right? Time to move on to the next project. So I feel like instead of closing and then relaunching as a perfume brand, I'd rather just evolve and do it that way. So we're still going to be selling shaving soaps going forward. Like that's in the plan. So we're not going anywhere.
I think you can buy a Creed brand Aventus shaving soap, right?
Yeah, even like it's it really does go back.
It's all part of it.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. Is there's so many people that love fragrance in the in the shaving world.
And that actually
always
parlays into some of our questions coming up.
Yeah, that's kind of what brought us.
That's exactly it. So our first 2 scents from you were Shire and Indigo, which by the way has been discontinued. So grab this.
Yeah.
This if you need. So this one for us really showed the width of your imagination, and then Indigo, the depth of your perfuming, and that became the XY for us on what you could do, and you are still blowing our skirts up in new ways. Can you talk about how you create a scent from beginning to end? Do you create a brief for yourself? What's your inspiration? How do you do it?
Yeah. I mean, it's as different as you could imagine. Like some of them I'm actually just sitting down and saying, what are the holes in my lineup? You know, what kind of fragrances have I not done? Because I'm always looking for like what's different, what's new, what's something that's going to keep me interested. I feel like it's almost like if I'm pursuing something that's interesting, that I'm curious about, then that's going to make the customers interested and curious also. Right. So it might feel risky that way, but I'm always sort of just like I like to cook also. Maybe this will give you like a little bit of an idea. I go to the grocery store or whatever it is, and I look for stuff, like I'm buying my regular milk and eggs and whatever. But then I'm like, oh, what's this? I've never used that before. I'll just try it. I throw it in my, and then I figure out what I'm going to make with it later. So I kind of did that a lot with perfume materials, and now I've got like, I haven't counted them, but probably about 1,000 different individual aroma chemicals and molecules and essential oils and so on and so forth. Natural isolates. I mean, there's all sorts of different things. So sometimes it's just a flash of inspiration, like something happens, like the You and I Will Die fragrance. Then the title of it came to me first because it was inspired by like sort of you and I as me and my wife, and this idea that like, I think I posted about it recently, that like when things are great in your life, you should just notice, hey, this is nice, this is really nice. And I remember thinking that, oh, this is really nice. We had that moment, and my wife goes, you have to live a long life. And she was like so serious, and I was like, wow, like really ruined the moment, But she was really just kind of being kind of goofy and silly about it, but also kind of like poignant. Like we don't have, forever on this earth, right? And so she was just kind of just being like, I want this to last. Is what she was saying.
Right.
But it really started me thinking in the sense of like that whenever you have something special, there's always this feeling of, well, at some point it's not going to be here anymore.
Right.
So that's why the will die was in parentheses. It's kind of just, it's always there,
Right.
And so you can either acknowledge that it's there and almost use that as like, well, then I'm not going to have fear divide us and ruin it because I'm worried about losing you. That where day to day, I'm actually going to slowly lose you a little bit at a time, Instead, I'm going to say at some point I'm going to lose you. And so in that way, I'm going to treasure you and I'm going to be me. And I'm going to, be brave about life. And be brave about
our own mortality be a gift in and of itself to help us truly appreciate what we have. Right.
100%, yeah. So not in like a weird goth morbid way, but really just being like, hey, this is actually something that makes life special, is the fact that we don't have it forever.
They're going to say it during the marriage ceremony, so death do you part. They
exactly.
But it's I think what like you mentioned too, I heard you talking about it somewhere else too, but you were kind of talking about how it is a reminder of the sweetness that you have.
Totally.
And how to truly savor that.
Not taking it for granted. Yeah.
Right.
So along with that, so then I started thinking about, well, then what does that mean for me in perfume form? And came up with kind of like a concept and a structure that in some ways is like a throwback to some of the sort of leathery sheepwear fragrances that were really popular in like the 70s and 80s, but then just really updated and really kind of elevated, classy, and a lot of very like natural notes in there. Because I felt like, well, when we're gone, then what's going to be here? Well, nature is going to win,
Going back to
we'll always be here.
Yeah, very cool. Do you remember what the first fragrance was that you ever wore? I know you started the business because of shaving soap, but was there a fragrance that you used to wear?
Yeah. Oh, man, I have never been a fragrance person. I think I have sort of like a I'm like overly sensitive
I could have guessed that actually, Ben. You know why? Because these don't smell like anything else.
Yeah.
yeah.
They started
So
from scratch.
I'm not well versed in like like perfume. You know, people
Well,
will say,
But
"Oh, well,
that
what
might
does
be
it
a good
smell
thing.
like?"
Yeah.
right, but see, I've read so much Aaron Sorkin that sometimes when I try to write a play, it sounds just like Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah,
So I love
yeah,
that your
yeah,
nose did not grow up with Calvin Klein's in it all the time, because I think that way when you went to create your own, it was from more of a blank canvas. Does that
yeah.
make sense?
Well, I mean, yeah, exactly. And I think that your comparison is a good one. Like we always have influences, so it's not a blank canvas in a sense. But I remember, and oh man, I really have to look up her name. But I remember there was this woman who was really known in the fashion world. Um, I completely forgot her name. And they said, hey, you know, do you have any advice for anyone who's young and trying to get into fashion or you know design or whatever? And she said, pay attention to everything but fashion, you know?
Yeah.
And basically, I remember when I first started making sense for shaving, and I remember thinking the same thing, like, I do want to try what other people are making, but as much as possible, I don't want what I'm doing to be in reference to what anybody else in the market is
Yes.
doing.
Right.
And
Right.
so I always try to find out, well, what's a film that's inspiring me? What's in my life? What am I enjoying in my life? And I'm going to pull my inspiration from that, and then that's what will be. So it's not like going out to try to be different,
Right.
but it's
Right.
trying to
Just
be
being
you.
yourself. Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And so it actually does mean that, you know, you have to live a life in some way, you know, and I think, you know, the thing about writing, sometimes people, oh, you know, poor writers, they're all so depressed because they're like shut up in their rooms with like whiskey and they're like on the floor just
Right.
passed out drunk half the time. Get out of the room, you know, and like Werner Herzog, for instance, you guys know the documentary filmmaker. I saw an interview with him recently with Anderson Cooper, and he same thing. It was basically the same kind of question. You know, what advice would you have for someone who's thinking about getting into making movies? And he was like, well, you're going to want to try to get a job so that you can earn some money because you're going to have to finance the project, and it's really, really expensive. He was like, I implore you, do not get a cubicle job. Do not get a corporate office job. He said, go be a bouncer at a strip club. Go, you know, be a farmer. Like, go do something where you're actually in the world. Yeah, face to face with people, interacting, living a life.
Right.
And then that's what's going to lead you to. So you're making some money, but you're also getting something that's far more important for any creative person, which is inspiration and sources.
I was watching Carol Channing, of all people, being interviewed yesterday, and to paraphrase what she said, you don't love shaving soaps. You take the things about life that you love and translate them into scents that you put into shaving soaps.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, a big thing of what I tried to do with Mammoth from the beginning was I'm thinking about the person that's picking it up and using it, and it's part of their daily routine. And how can I make their life richer in some way? How can I get them to think about their life or themselves or their relationships? And so for me, I never really made that explicit, but like you could read that in what the scents are about. It wasn't just like, this one's going to get you laid. This one's going to make you happy. You know, it was a lot more like, you know, kind of like a deep dive into human experience.
Yeah, that more personal connection.
Like this one comes to mind, the hug.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
For your brother, I think, right?
I was a little nervous about that one being like, well, this one specifically is me reaching across the country to give my brother a hug, right? It feels like it's too specific. But then I think about songwriting, like some of the most universal lyrics are the ones that are the most specific.
Personal,
and it's almost like it really, like I've never walked in Memphis, but like you can get a sense of what that's about because they made it specific. It could have just been like walking down the street, you know, but like it wouldn't have the same power.
It just kind of makes me think, I wish my sister loved me that much.
Yeah. Well, I can't comment on that. But yeah.
Are there any set notes, Ben, that you don't like?
Yeah, are there certain ones that just deter you?
Or are you like a foodie where you'll take all comers?
So they say that if you want to be a perfumer, you can't hate any note, right? Or any material, because anything can be useful in a certain context. Like I think a great example is Skatole or Indole. Skatole, Skatole, if you look it up, or Indole, Indole. They're both things that smell like Indole smells like kind of mothball or whatever. Skatole smells kind of poopy, kind of fecal. But those are actual aromatic molecules that if a chemist did a headspace analysis or a mass or GCMS of floral scents, the scent of a flower,
Right.
you would actually find
Right.
traces of that. And so perfumers actually use those types of materials to give it more naturalcy because that's what we're used to smelling in a flower.
Ah.
So on one
Yeah.
hand, you can say, well, I hate the smell of that. Like I can't, civet or whatever. Oh, cat piss. I can't, right? But there's actually a use for it. It just has to be done in the right way.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
paraphrasing George
personally,
Carlin.
like I have
and
a
he
hard
said-
time with some of the accords, the combinations that make
Right.
certain fragrances. That's something that I don't really enjoy. Like I remember in the 90s, everybody was wearing these kind of like blue, fresh fragrances. And for me, like I didn't know what it was made of, but later I was like, oh, okay, that's an overdose of like dihydromercenol and like calone and some of these other things. Well, now sort of I know. Okay, so I'm not going to try to make something using that combination because I don't particularly enjoy it.
Right.
So maybe that would be my answer. It's
Okay.
sort of
Right.
light blue type fragrances.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Were there any clues when you were growing up that you'd be a perfumer one day? Like now looking back, were there any clues?
Not perfume specifically. I mean, I just always been interested in art and creativity and making things. And I was always kind of taking things apart also. So
Right.
if you have a kid that likes to find out how things work, that was me. And that's really an essential quality for a perfumer because you need to be able to deconstruct things to be able to reconstruct them. You need to understand what makes a scent note to be able to reassemble that scent note and make it do what you want in the context of the fragrance.
Right.
Because it's not just taking, if I want to make a strawberry note, for instance, there is no essential oil or whatever that I can use to make strawberry. Pineapple is another one. There's no essential oil that comes from pineapple.
Right.
So a lot of
Maple.
us know essential oils because, hey, we know essential oils because lavender and orange and all of these different essential oils are really, really nice. But then what happens when you can't find an essential oil that can make that note? Well, that's where perfumers can say, okay, well, we know the scent of strawberries actually comes from this, this, and this. And you can kind of create it that way. Even something like a rose, you can make rose essential oil or absolutes or the word is escaping me, but it's incredibly expensive. So a lot of us, we know, okay, well, actually, you can make a rose note from a combination of like 6 or 7 aroma chemicals and the natural isolates that actually exist in the fragrance of most roses. But then, as you know, if you've smelled a few roses, you've smelled that there's a wide range of different types of rose scents, and you can take them in a lot of different directions. So what's really fun about it is once you understand the sort of basic construction of what makes a rose note, now you can say, well, I want it to be more green, or I want it to be a little more dry, or a little more sweet and fruity. I want it to be kind of watery a little bit. I want it to be like an early spring rose. No, I want it to be a late summer.
So you're talking about almost hacking on a molecular level.
That's exactly what it is.
Right.
You're actually getting to know. And you can do this too. You can go and Google, chemical makeup of, blank, whatever, essential oil or rose or whatever. And you'll find a bunch of different studies that will say it has a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, different percentages and things. But it's also why kryptonite was hard to make because lime itself has a lot of, kind of common, a lot of notes in common or chemicals in common, aroma chemicals in common with pine and evergreen. So, so again, it's escaping me. So talking is like a different skill than doing the chemical stuff on the spreadsheet. So I have like a really hard time, because I don't talk about it. I just do it. So I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's I think it's alpha.
If I think about what notes my fingers are playing, I can't play the piano. It's probably the same thing.
Yeah, I think it's alpha pinene. But anyway, that's in lime essential oil, but it's also in, from the name pine, it's also in
That
a lot
makes
of
sense, though.
evergreen.
In like the peel of
Right.
the lime, I could see
Well,
where that would
Yeah.
be a
I
thing.
never thought about diving into the molecule of the
Yeah.
essential oil that came from nature and seeing what might bind or what might be missing. I mean, it's brilliant. I never
Yeah,
thought of that. It reminds me of a chemistry lab where Dr. Dang had us the most foul-smelling acetates.
Right.
And we had to figure out how to combine them in just exactly the right way. And when we were done, she said, okay, smell it. And if you got it right, these foul-smelling nail polish removers turned into the most beautiful banana you've ever smelled in your
There you
life.
go.
And it's
Yep.
weird. It's like, wait, is this just smells like Laffy Taffy? Is this what's in Laffy Taffy? And she goes, hate to break it to you, but yeah, pretty close.
That's
I was like,
exactly what perfumers do.
Okay.
Right. So
You had
our
a good
eyes can be,
chemistry teacher.
I did. She was real, Dr. Dang. I loved her. Now, our eyes can be insanely fooled by optical illusions, our ear,
Right.
too. What is something about our sense of scent that you wish everybody understood? Is there something similar with our nose
Oh,
that
man.
we need to
Yeah,
know?
so our sense of scent is like the least studied
Right.
in of all of our scents, and it's the least taught as well. So it's interesting. We're actually much better at smelling than we think. So everyone thinks like a dog has the best sense of smell, and then we're probably somewhere way below. We're actually pretty good, compared. Maybe a dog is a little bit above with some things, but then there's things that we can smell that they can't. But yeah, I mean, some of it is that context matters, right? Because it's also that your brain is making sense out of the sensory input that's coming in
Right.
at all times, right? Just with anything. So like in music, you can have implied harmonies, for instance. It's because your brain is filling in the missing
Yes.
note, right?
Right.
You can do the same thing in perfume. So you can do that same chemical analysis of like, this is what a jasmine flower smells like. And you can take out a few things so that it doesn't become too muddled if you want to combine that with something else. And so the overlap doesn't kind of like cloud everything. Because if you put too much in there, then your nose and your brain is going to be like, this just smells like confusion. And you're not going to smell much. The other thing that's an interesting thing to know about is that your brain will tune out things that it smells regularly, or just any kind of sensory input. Think about like if you move into a house and you live kind of close to a train station. At first you'll be like, man, it's like really annoying here, like kind of far away from me. I actually have a train station, and you could hear it,
Right.
Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, like I don't hear it anymore, And it's not just because I wear hearing aids, but also because I've lived here and my brain hears it or takes it in, but has already decided that's not important.
Right.
Right.
But then if you came to my house and you were like, oh, are you by a train station? I'd be like, what? Yeah. Oh, actually, yes, I am.
Right.
The
Right.
same
Right.
thing happens with scent, right? It's why you can't smell the smell of your own house because you come in and out of it every day,
Right.
right?
Right.
Unless you go away for like a couple of weeks and then you come back and you're like, yes, the smell of home,
Right. Right.
The
Interesting.
same thing happens with your fragrances that you wear or even your shaving soaps. If you use the same shaving soap every day, you're not going to smell it as much. If you wear the same perfume every day, you're going to find yourself putting more on to try to detect it more, right? So one of the kind of hacks that you can do for that is just to rotate stuff.
Gotcha.
Right.
Don't wear the same thing every day. Don't use the same aftershave at least every day, and that'll make
That's
sure
why our
that your
collection
brain doesn't
size.
tune
I
it
think
out.
we're good. We
Yeah,
have
that's
a-
an argument for a large collection, everybody, if you're paying.
Oh no, I wasn't trying to do that. I meant
I feel
more
better
like
about
because
it,
for
so-
people like me, like I hate when someone's wearing a lot of perfume. It's
Right.
like really come on.
overblowing. Yeah.
Like we
Right.
get it, but it's probably because that's their just go-to. They wake up in the morning, they get ready, so on, they put on their fragrance, and then they walk out the door, and they probably thought, oh, this is like losing its strength. I better put a little more on.
Right.
Right. Right.
Ah, interesting.
Now, here's a question for you. This is a perfect Ben question, I think. my mom, when she was a teenager, did like a goodwill tour to the Philippines, Okinawa, and Guam. And in one of, I think it was in Guam, the family that she stayed with, their tradition was to take this perfume and put it in their water, a dish of water, and then they would wash their face with it. And they gave her a little bottle when she left at the airport, and she said, take that. And she always remembered that's what that
That's
scent
awesome.
was. And I wondered, and I asked her once when I was little, why is this so coveted? And she said, well, honey, she said it was far more than the scent. There was something communal about the ceremony. There was something about the family bonding that we would all come together. But there was something about the scent that was just magic and sort of brought not only that experience, but the place I was in all together. And when I smell this, it brings it all back. So my question is, what is the role and intention of perfume in our world today? What is it for?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to use perfume, honestly, is to take it with you to a special event or on a special trip. Um, because your brain loves to anchor memories to scent. That's one of the things that we realize is really, really powerful is the correspondence of memory and scent. I think taste also is another thing. But certainly if you can't be traveling to a place and tasting the food from there, regularly, if you had worn a certain fragrance or if you have a fragrance that was from there, then that would definitely be a powerful thing for you.
Right.
Um,
Right,
so
because
I
it's
know
not
people
just
that do
about
it.
not smelling bad. It's not just about covering your body odor anymore. Perfume is a whole
No.
different thing now.
Yeah, so I mean, I think people talk about like, oh, you could use fragrance in like a functional way, like almost like as therapy, like, oh, wear this one to like uplift
Right.
your mood, wear this one to. I think largely that's bunk. Um, but I do think that you can kind of like set an intention towards something. Like you can say, uh, hey, I've been really down lately and I want to feel like happier and I want to have a positive outlook today. So I'm going to wear something that's bright and cheery and I'm going to think about how I want today to be a positive day. That will work, right? Because
Right.
we're interested in the things that we're focused on. And so if you're focusing on negative things, then that's what's going to happen, right? But if you tell yourself, hey, today I'm going to focus on positive things and even tie like a scent to it, it's just an extra kind of like, thing. That'll give you a little bit of a boost, I think so, for sure.
Right. This is a technical question, but does perfume expire?
Um, so everything in the world is in a process of change. And so it does slowly degrade over time. Yeah.
Okay.
There are things that you can do to kind of arrest the or slow the process of that change. So typically the top notes are the ones that will go off or will evaporate faster. So if you imagine it this way, like it's a chemical mixture that's going in there. I like using the word chemical because people are so like anti-chemical these days, but like I'm drinking chemicals right now.
Right.
This is my tea.
Here they
You know,
go.
there's chemicals in water. So, but anyway, yeah. So it's a chemical mixture, the same way that lavender essential oil is a chemical mixture, right? And so what happens is that it's affected by the conditions of that it's in, right? So if there's a lot of sunlight, if there's a lot of heat, then it's going to degrade faster. But either way, even if you keep it in a cool, dry spot, dark spot, it's still going to continue its process. The other thing is when you use it will actually introduce oxygen into the bottle. So when you spray,
Right.
like that's
Right.
the way a sprayer happens is like you push out some stuff, and then when it goes up, guess what it's doing? It's sucking in a little
Right.
bit of
Right.
air.
Right.
So that's why, if you have a half-used bottle of fragrance, then it'll go through a slightly different change than a full bottle that you never use.
Right.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
So it's
Right.
interesting because you might have a fragrance, and typically it takes a while to use up a full bottle of fragrance. I mean, you might have it for 5 years,
Right.
8 years or whatever. And if that fragrance is still in production, and you buy another bottle, 5, 6, 7 years later, it could be the exact same formulation and everything. It's going to smell different to you
Right.
because what you're using is a 7-year-old bottle of that mixture.
Right.
Yes. Right.
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 So
Exactly.
I think in the perfume world, I've run into that a little bit where people are like really, really mad that like the fragrance smells different. And I'm like, wow, I get why you're mad because you want it to smell the way that you want it to smell. The only way that you can make sure that it's going to smell exactly the same is to buy like on eBay, like a
Right.
7-year-old bottle of the fragrance. And that
Right.
will smell the same.
Right.
Otherwise, it won't.
Yeah. Now let's have a grown-up conversation. I'm going to get in a little trouble for
Yeah,
this.
go for it.
Oh, no.
I am a musician. I kind of need to be told how I feel about something a little bit. I'm a musician who has had his music stolen.
Okay.
it didn't feel good. And I ended up, winning in court, but like it didn't make me feel any better. This person did my show without me. Let's talk about homages and dupes for a second. I asked Will at Barrister and Mann if you could copyright your sense, but it would mean that you couldn't do your homages anymore, would you? And he thought real hard, and he said, absolutely. Absolutely, I would.
Yeah. I think
so. I think
say the same.
I think the three of us have a similar feeling a little bit.
Yeah,
about
I think
dupes.
anyone who has been a person who went through the process of creating something, right, would understand that copying, duping is theft. The rest of it is really just kind of an intellectual exercise, a moral exercise. The other side of it is that understanding that we're all building on what's come before. There's a body of knowledge, and we're sort of, so I try to kind of balance the two, where I say, well, I'm also inspired by, and I owe a great debt to the people who came before. But I also know that, when something's very specifically like, it's this profile, it's this description, it's this name, and then you see another thing that says, hey, we made a cheaper version of this name, this profile. Like, it's pretty clear, that all they're trying to do is say, we made the same thing that this other guy made, and we're selling it for cheaper. You can decide how you want to feel about that again, and I'm not really here to judge people for making those decisions, because I also think that people have like this feeling of entitlement, like we want it both ways, right? So like on one hand, we love to brag that we got a great deal on something. For instance, like, oh, I know this secret and I got this great deal. But then we also kind of like to like leave the price tag on something that we spent a lot of money on, or that we like got limited edition that other people don't have because it makes us feel special. So we want to have it both ways, So if you're the person who got the limited edition thing and paid the money, you're going to be like, I'm so awesome because I spent this money and like it's so valuable, and look at this is part of my identity or whatever it might be. Everyone should be impressed by me in the way that I spent this money, right? Or I have something that's limited edition. But then that person's not going to be happy with the person that bought the copy. And they're going to be happy with themselves because, like, wow, you're an idiot because you spent $1,000 and I only spent $15, right? So I think I'd rather just let them fight it out a little bit.
There you go.
Those two people, because we've all been either or both at different times in our lives, right? And as much as I would rather that there wasn't a such thing as duping, one, I'm not big enough to be duped at this point yet. And two, I also trust that wherever my inspiration came from to create something special in the first place, special enough to be duped, that there's a lot more where that came from. And so I kind of have to adopt that stance that if in the future it does happen, I'll just be like, on one hand, yes, it's a ripoff. On the other hand, people know that it's not the real thing. They sort of know that they're not actually getting the real thing. And if someone's following you, well, that means that you're in the lead. So
that's
really a competition or a rate or whatever. It's not a competition, but if it is a competition, I'm winning. That's how I'd have to look at it. That being said, I'm not a major house that really is losing lots of money because of dupes. Now, there's another whole thing out there, which is actually like counterfeits, and that happens. High-end, like, that's not even a dupe. It's not even someone being like, is a no-name brand and whatever, but it's actually trying to pretend that it is. That's another thing. I would probably be a little more mad about that one. But
I'm with you. That makes more sense. So are there rules for perfuming? Like things that shouldn't be mixed together or things that should always be mixed together? I know you're talking more about the chemical breakdown, but are there certain rules that just cannot be broken?
So yes and no. The way that I look at it is if you wanted to make something in a certain style, you have to follow the structure of that style. And then kind of like break out of the style a little bit. So, the Fougere family, like it has to be a similar kind of structure. It can be really bare bones or like avant-garde or, space Fougere, but there has to be certain components that make it actually resemble a fougere in some way. Otherwise, you're just kind of misleading people. So in the description, maybe in that sense. And then, so that's one thing I would say, fragrance families. And then on the other end is really just safety. So certain things should not be used just because they're not safe for people to use. And certain things should just be used by certain limits. And thankfully, we have a scientific body out there that that can regulate that, or that can set the limits, so that we're not, thankfully, putting stuff on ourselves that is going to hurt us in the future.
Are certain scent notes naturally stronger or weaker? And what are the strongest and weakest scent notes?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we're doing, like as perfumers, is we're playing with physics. Physics is applied chemistry. So the idea of like, how does the evaporation work? So learning the evaporation curve actually is a huge advantage to putting together a fragrance that can like evolve over time, or if you want it to be consistent over time. Like for instance, citruses are notoriously like quick to evaporate. They're very volatile. So if you wanted to create a fragrance that's a citrus fragrance, like kryptonite, for instance, you have to find some way to extend that note past the the actual, the evaporation curve of that particular note. You can't force it to last longer by putting more in, right? It'll just be more powerful, but for the same amount of time. Does that make sense?
Right.
It'll just be like louder, like you'll really a lot of it, but it'll still be gone in the same time frame.
Louder, but not
change
longer.
Physics. Exactly. So what you can do is find other chemicals or materials that do last longer and that are kind of like similar. So it tricks the brain into thinking that it has continued, even though the citrus is gone completely. What's taking over? It's almost like a handoff, like a relay race with the baton. The thing that takes the baton.
Does it use scent memory to do that, like associating the citrus with the other notes, so that when we do get the rest of the blend, we still fill it in with the citrus?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, you're used to smelling kind of citrusy things in evergreen, for instance, so that's why I used evergreen or the citrusy evergreens, so that even though the fragrance is starting off citrusy and then going more evergreen, you're not gonna notice like a shift dramatically. It's gonna slowly blend in. The way I think of it is like on a color grid. If you had like a rainbow, there's a sharp delineation between like red, orange, yellow, green. Right. But if you saw that on more of like I forget, I don't remember what it's called, but where they blend the colors from red to orange.
Right, like ombre thing.
A little bit more, That's basically what perfumers can do too. So that even though it does go from red to orange, it's not this dramatic break. And so really your perception is that the red has continued for longer.
This is one of the most beautiful lactonics I've ever smelled. I've noticed that the lactonic note is sort of one that I can only sense in the periphery of my sense, if that makes sense. Like, lactonics are hard for me to get my thumb on, but I think they're meant to be like that.
Yeah, I mean, it really just depends on two things. One is like how it's used in the fragrance. And then the other thing is for you personally, what does it mean to you in some way? What's your familiarity with it? If there's something that you like, I'll give you an example from another artisan. You mentioned Will from Barbershop Duet. One of the first shaving soaps that I bought was Lavanille, and it has that Mousse de Saxe accord in it. I had never smelled that Mousse de Saxe accord before, so I couldn't put my finger on what it was. Right? I could just smell that it was kind of dark and kind of vanilla-y, and I guess there was a lavender thing in there too. Couldn't really tell. But then the more of his fragrances or soaps that I tried that had that accord in it, the more I could tell what was common between the two. Then when I went back to Lavanille, I was like, oh, there it is. Now I can tell it actually Lavanille smelled different to me after I got familiar with the Mousse de Saxe accord. So it might be that way for you with lactonic notes. We're very familiar with like coconut and stuff. Like that's a lot of the lactonic materials have a coconut facet, but there's a lot more that have been coming out more recently, and certainly in voices there is a bit of a coconutty note as well. But there's others that are not. That are not
Some use saffron for electronics, some
things,
other
yeah.
things like that.
Do you have a scent memory that has like your most powerful scent memory? Does it associate with anything specific?
Yeah, I think Mr. Hall wanted to know what your
Yes,
most
that was
powerful
Yeah,
scent
I
memory
mean,
was.
there's a lot though. So that's the other thing I was gonna say is that even though I didn't grow up as like a perfume person, I love, sort of food and smells and experience. Like I'm a very experiential person.
Right.
So like I have to like touch things and feel things
Right.
and be a part of them and like experience it.
Yeah, and you mentioned that
yeah.
you wear hearing aids. One of my best friends growing up, I was there for the transition of her getting hearing aids, and it was interesting to live through her other senses. Like she'd read my lips, or there were certain
Yeah.
things that we did. So I almost wonder if that really helps you sense this world in such a different, cool perspective too.
Yeah. So similar to writing or music or other creative disciplines, the most important skill that you have as an artist is that you're paying attention to the world, right? So like you cultivate like an eye to see what other people maybe don't see. In the same, you're looking at the same thing, right? And so yeah, there maybe I have a little bit of an advantage because I had to pay more attention than other people did, and so I didn't take it for granted. And maybe that's also why I kind of get overwhelmed more often is because I'm used to paying so much attention to everything that's happening that I kind of get burned out like faster. So yeah, maybe.
Right. Somebody wanted to know if there's a connection between House of Mammoth and Chicago grooming department.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So from the beginning, I was making stuff myself. I was making like a big batch of soap, like 100 soaps, right? But it would take, I had a toddler at the time too, and it would take me like, a number of hours on like a Saturday or a Sunday. And I had to clear my whole kitchen. I had to clean everything. I'd have to set everything. I'd make space on every table, the whole thing. And I was laying out, 100 soaps, and I was filling them, and it's a lot, wrestling a huge pot with, hot oils and fats, and then adding in the hot lye water. I mean, it has to be like a similar temperature. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and I think after a while I was like, I don't want to do this anymore, I can't be, and it was selling out so fast that I couldn't keep up with the demand. So at some point I talked to Vita from Chicago Chicago Grooming Company, who I just knew and respected as like a fellow artisan. I knew what she was about. I knew the quality of her work, her integrity especially. And I said, what do you think about making soap for me?
Right.
And she was like, I'm down. Like, so we kind of went through this thing where like I taught her my formula or my recipe for it. She sent it, she tried it. She sent it to me for like evaluation. She nailed it. And I was like, all right, we'll do it. And so that was nice too, because then it opened the door for aftershaves and aftershave balms and stuff like that too, which we sort of made together. She formulated with my kind of input for what I wanted from the splash and the balm. So we were able to get, even a proprietary formula for Mammoth aftershaves as well. And the rest is history. We've been working together for probably 6 years or something like that. Okay. Five or 6 years.
Very cool.
And so she's awesome. So I basically run the kind of business side, customer service, the social media, and all that stuff, and then I make the fragrances. And then I send fragrance to her to put into the different products. She makes the products, and then she basically fulfills all the orders as they come in. So
very cool.
Her title at Mammoth is basically production partner.
Okay.
Oh, that's great.
So yes, they're kind of connected.
What other hobbies do you have? We've noticed some pictures of like gardening and stuff on your Facebook.
Yeah, I'm big into that. Yeah, I love that. I think a lot of it is because you end up on the computer or on the phone a lot.
Yes.
Just like for work, right? And so like when I'm at work, I'm on the computer all day. And so I love if I can get outside in some way. So on the weekends, we like to go hiking or like, just hang out in the yard, go for a walk, whatever it might be. But then, a lot of gardening. I was actually, it's been overgrown for a while, so I had to get out there today and kind of like really took a bunch of stuff down. But a lot of flowers, a lot of I'm really big into like native plants, so that like we're sort of restoring the habitat for different animals. So we have a lot of like butterflies and stuff like that in the yard. Tons of birds, like all different species of birds. So I'm always like pulling out. Like I have this app called Merlin. It's from Cornell Lab, and you can have it listen to the birds, and it will tell you what the birds actually are. Which
Right,
is
right. I've heard about
it's a
that.
good app. Yeah. So yeah, I'm really into that. But same thing. I mean, that's the kind of thing where like again, you're putting yourself into a different experience of life, and you're really just paying attention.
Right.
So.
Sin City Shaves wants to know if you use artificial and natural oils, and if there's a big difference between them.
Yeah, I mean, there's no such thing really as an artificial. Everything is chemistry. So if it's a natural source, for instance, like the menthol in your shaving soaps, can be made synthetically, can be synthesized in a lab, or it can be derived. It can be taken from peppermint. So for some people, they make like a moral judgment that like a natural thing is better or safer, but essentially it's the same product that comes out afterwards, and either way, it's being done in a facility, in a production facility, in a lab type of environment. So I don't think that there's really a meaningful difference between the two in the way that people want to draw a meaningful difference. I think where the difference has come, honestly, is from marketing, is from people wanting to try to like create a new segment of products that they can sell. And unfortunately, it's caused quite a bit of harm to people in terms of like misinformation, but even like physical harm. Because a lot of naturals, especially when you distill them down and your skin is not used to experiencing highly concentrated, distilled natural materials, your skin's going to be like, what the hell is that? And you're going to have a reaction. It makes sense, right? Especially something that might not even be from your local area, like you've never encountered it before. Something from another country on the other side of the world that's distilled and highly concentrated, and then you're going to put it on your face. It's dangerous because I think even some soap makers might think, well, if I just use essential oils, then I'm going to make safe products, and that's decidedly not the case. A ton of essential oils are actually irritants. So I never want to criticize people, but I also think that if you're going to say I'm going to do something where I'm going to come into this space and I'm going to make things for people to put on their skin, you should do it responsibly. Right? That's my only advice, is just make sure you know that what you're putting in there is safe.
Gotcha.
How do you know? There's an organization called the IFRA, International Fragrance something. And they actually they've published, safe maximum usage in final products. And it's in a whole bunch of categories, and there's a category for wash off products, and there's a category for leave on products, so like your splashes, and stuff like that. And so you can actually just look it up. So just read the directions, basically, and you'll know that whatever you're making is going to be safe. The other thing that's nice about it is that if someone does have a complaint, and God forbid, threatens to, besmirch your reputation, publicly, or bring a lawsuit even, you can say, actually, here are my notes. Here's what I put in there, and here's how I can show you that I followed the internationally accepted guidelines for safe limits. And that's gonna save your butt.
Right.
Gotcha.
Now, please forgive us, but we ask everybody this.
We do.
Have you ever seen a ghost or had a supernatural encounter?
Oh, well, I mean, look, we've been talking for quite a while, but like I could talk about this for a while.
Oh, good.
Because I grew up in like a highly, I don't want to say that it was a cult, but like it's as close as it could be in like Christianity and like evangelical Christianity. And we very much believed that like the supernatural was the real world. And, so I don't really believe the same anymore, and I'm not in that kind of tradition anymore. But definitely grew up, trying or being taught to be highly aware of something. There's more happening than what you can see. Nowadays, I probably veer more in like the opposite direction, where I'm more likely to be like a skeptic. So someone will be like, "Oh, this thing happened," and I'll be like, "Did it really? Let's go a little deeper." because I have plenty of friends that are more like kind of spooky and whatever. And
Uh-huh.
I'll be like, really, especially if it's something that's making you kind of like making it hard for you to live your life. I'd be like,
Right.
let's
Right.
debunk that a little bit. Let's get back to feeling safe in our own skin.
Right.
Novel idea. Yeah.
Yeah. But I also enjoy it. I think, and I have a son. He's young, and we've talked with him about that too. To be like, well, your mind is really really good at making up um, different stories and explanations for things, right?
Right.
We think about like we live in these safe houses with electricity and the internet and all this, and like we have the most privileged, safe lives of any human in human history. But our brain is still in that mode of like something might be coming out of the shadows to kill me right now.
Right.
So I've got to like
Yeah.
anticipate that. So for me, I tend to believe that most ghost sightings or whatever are really kind of that, where your brain is going, oh no, like there's something there. Let's make sense of that. And it's sort of like when you see, in kind of a cute way, maybe this goes back to this sort of implied harmonies thing, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Is like when you see like faces in products or like a house or a car, like your brain will be like, oh, that's a smiling face. That car is really happy, or this one's really sad.
Right.
I think of it kind of in that same way. So does it really exist? Maybe. Like maybe on some deeper level, your brain's being like, there really is something there.
Right.
But it could also just be kind of like your brain trying to make sense of what stimulus it doesn't understand.
Right.
Right.
I don't know.
So
Should I
I'm
ask
gonna
you
go off.
what do you guys think?
No.
Oh, well, it's funny. My dad was a funeral director, so I grew
Yeah.
up in a funeral home. But
Yeah.
that's not where I experienced my weird supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's funny. It's
Where
like
you'd assume. You
right.
know.
You'd think the cemetery would be haunted,
Absolutely.
but it's not. It's the least haunted place in the world. But I think that's the story I was going to tell tonight was it's real simple. But my friend Henry lived down in Phoenix, and he was not one to joke about such things. But he had a ghost that lived on the second floor that used to hate the lights on at night, and it would turn the lights off. So his mom came to stay with him, and he told her, "Hey, I got this ghost in your room, so don't turn the lights on after 9:00." And she was like, "Whatever," right? So there was one particular fixture that wasn't attached to the switch. It was a bulb that went into the wall. So she's sitting in bed reading, and she hears, and she looks up, and the bulb is spinning
Oh no.
very slowly until it turns off.
That's amazing.
And then she screamed, and then Henry came upstairs and said, "I told you. I
Yeah,
told you.
right.
Just
Love it.
turn the lights off by 9 and you'll be fine." But that's pretty much all I have to offer as far as ghost stories.
Yeah.
But I do have
Look,
one.
and I have no
one,
problem with that at all. I'm like, cool. You know what? There is a lot more that happens
That's
in the
our
world
room.
than we know.
Right.
So
Yeah.
In the mysteries of space and time,
100%.
theoretical physics can prove a lot of crazy things. You never know.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't think
I always
it's-
feel like the more you learn, the more that you realize you don't know, and
Right.
so I'd rather leave room to be inspired and for
There you
more,
Right.
rather than feeling like I have to master and understand everything.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't think that I don't think that ghosts like live among us, but I think that their residual energies or something can echo, and I think
Yeah.
somehow maybe that's what we're seeing. That's what
Yeah.
Yeah.
so,
Or
but
it's just that, like
something's
we're
going on,
better at perceiving things than we give ourselves credit for.
right?
Like I
And we
think
have more than
when
five
you know
senses,
that
that's for
something's
sure.
wrong with somebody, but like you don't know how you know,
Right.
right?
Hey,
Like, you might not even be in the same room. Like I think there's definitely something happening.
Yeah, I think we're all a little empathic, way more than we realize
Yeah.
somehow. But so my last question for you, we did not plan because I have been forming it during the course of this interview. But I am fascinated and I love meeting people in life who I think have found a path to really figure life out for themselves. And I don't think there is like one secret of life. I think it's a City Slickers thing where there's one thing that's the most important and you have to find that. But there are just some people out there that have a grounded wisdom. Maybe they're an old soul, but Ben, you strike me as that kind. So you have a little boy, and I wonder someday if he asks you, "Dad, what's the secret of life?" Might you share that with our degenerate audience this evening? Ben, what have you?
I was gonna say, this might be a little
No
much
pressure.
for the shaving.
Maybe,
shaving
but
crew.
what have you learned about,
They might be
this
here.
this crazy life of ours that you translate into
what I would
you
say
to
is that
yourself?
it's actually a lot simpler than we think, because part of my like I went to I studied Christian ministry, I tried to figure out, theology and all this other stuff. I pondered the big questions and so on. And I really, I spent a lot of time when I was like in my teenage years, like reading autobiographies and biographies, because I wanted to figure out like how do other people live, like because the same questions, like what you're saying is like how should I live, like who do I follow, what do I need to be about, and I will tell you that I resonate more nowadays with the people that basically, like the other day I saw a video from this woman that was like, you know, my friends are all talking about how they got this job and they got this, award and this advance in their life or their career. And I used to feel inferior, but now I realize like, no, my goal is just to be a well-rested woman,
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it because I was just like, there really is kind of this rat race that's always going on. And there's that one of the reasons why I don't like marketing is because at the core, they're trying to make you feel bad about what you have or don't have so
Right.
that then they can turn around and fill that space that they just created, right? Like you didn't have that space until they
You were fine.
made that apparent. And that's why I feel like it's a little bit like of a trick. And we just need to know that that trick is there. But that dissatisfaction that a lot of people feel in life is really just because of that. It's just because we're always comparing and we're always thinking about what we don't have versus what we do have. So I think that's probably what I would be about is, and what I do already tell my son is, hey, I want you to be curious about the world. I want you to know who you are and what you're about. And I want you to always be learning. That's really what it's about.
Oh, I love that. Did you have any questions for us before we let you go?
So many. Like when is Sarah gonna sing a song? That's what I want to know.
Lord.
Well, her degree is in dance, modern dance from Fullerton, so she's the dancer. And one of these days we'll put a video
we'll throw
up.
a video up so it's proof that I can. But it's interesting because when you're talking about scent and music, like for me, it fits for choreography. So even if I was to choreograph a dance or something, it's a different lane of artistry. But like you were saying, being judged by your work or how other people perceive stuff, a lot of that overlaps for my choreographic kind of side too. So it's just interesting. Like mine's more in a movement-based thing versus an auditory thing or by scent. So it's funny. I think that's how we actually stumbled into this scent world, was because it was a new scent for both of us to kind of get to know sensing the world. So it's been fun how it overlaps.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, my wife is movement as well.
Okay.
She does kind of dance and movement and like aerial, like circus.
Oh, fun!
Arts.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. It's just however you feel like it makes sense to be able to express things in some way and tell stories and connect with other people.
Has she been to the Circus Center in New York?
We've been to a few circus performances, yes.
Nice.
But I haven't heard of, what is that one? Is that like a museum?
It's a training school in New York City.
Oh,
for like aerial work and trapeze and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, she's been to a few places for training, but I don't know.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Well, listen, thank you so much, Ben, for not only for spending this time with us, but we say this to the artisans, but we really mean it. We stumbled into this little podcast because video game microtransactions just got so under my skin that I didn't even want to play them anymore. But I grew up with a Commodore. I love my computer. I wanted to keep building things and making things with my computer. And when we stumbled upon this world and realized that House of Mammoth doesn't market, it's just about people who are excited about this, talking about this, that it's not really influencers in this world. It's more enthusiasts, because there's not a lot of money to be made. That's not what it's about. It's about finding this hobby that helps you take better care of yourself and realizing that you're worth it and you deserve it. And somehow I think the nicest people wind up in this hobby. And I think it gives you a great community for those that want to be a part of it. So for you who could have chosen and did choose a lot of different things to do with their life, thank you so much for, at this time and place, landing on this.
I have to say thank you, because the truth is, no one needs perfume and no one needs shaving soap and so on, or fancy shaving soap. That's really what it's about, is the shared enjoyment and the way that it enriches your life. So it's funny to me, it comes up sometimes when you see like people are talking about what we should teach in schools, for instance. Say, well, we only need to teach the essentials, and it's like reading, writing, arithmetic, science, whatever. And the first things that get cut are always the arts or phys ed, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's almost a sense that like those are not as essential.
Mm-hmm.
But without those, that's part of that human experience, that connection. I mean, if anything, that's way more essential than anything else. Maybe
Right.
science and writing and whatever, and that can help you get a job or learn something about some product that you can market or whatever it might be.
Right.
But what life are we living for, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What is it that we're working towards? So I appreciate people like you that love something and that are not afraid to just put it out there and
Right.
just be you.
Yeah.
There's a real bravery to say this is something that's really special and interesting to me, and I'm going to keep coming out here and talking about it.
Yeah.
Especially
And a
nowadays,
deep, right. Yeah. And a deep cut behind the scenes, but I'll tell you because I think you would appreciate it. My family, when my mom got Alzheimer's, moved to Idaho, and they pretty much stopped talking to me. My mom and I were the team in my family,
Yeah.
and my dad and my sister were kind of the team. And she moved 2 houses down from him, and that's where they all are. And I had a point to this.
Why we did this?
Wow, what was I going to say? Wow, I just totally blanked. This is bad.
It's
community
live.
and connection.
I feel like George Clooney last night.
Right.
But I have 2 nieces who were the absolute sun and moon in my life, and their communication was cut off completely, and that's the part that I can't really handle too well. So after we that kind of happened, we were thinking of what's something fun we could really do that we were really excited about, that we could talk about, that was this whole new world, but another way for us to sort of create a time capsule where we could just be ourselves for 20, 30 minutes at a time and tell stories about our lives and put pictures of our family and sort of encapsulate what it was like to hang out with us so that someday those 2 little girls can stumble upon these videos and know that one of the reasons that we did all of this was for them, so that they could spend this time with us someday, maybe even after we're gone. But just that's another little reason that we do the show and we keep doing the show.
And more the Saturday morning kind of vibe,
right?
That's kind of where it started.
And we know we're the Blues Clues of the shaving soap world, but that's another kind of reason for that.
That's a good description. I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Under the surface, but it is funny too, though, just a little aside, but when little kids do come over, they love these just as much. I had a little 9-year-old I was teaching voice, and she was reading Lord of the Rings. So I sent her a little sample of this. Awesome. And you should have seen her face, Ben, when she was like, "This is what the Shire smells like?" And I was like, yes!
That's amazing.
I have it on good authority from House of Mammoth. This is exactly what Shire smells like.
I've been there, so.
Right, so thank you so much. She went to rescue the dog.
No problem.
Thank you so much
for
being here with us tonight. Thank all of you for spending this time with us on a Sunday evening when you could have been watching the Tony Awards. And thank you to my beloved for being here with me. And let's do this again.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sure.
This has been fabulous.
Just let me
We've learned so much. And the comments going by, everybody was just so grateful that you're here and sharing all this information with us.
Somebody said they were shaving with the Shire literally right now. So that was
wow. Okay.
So thank you all for being here. We were going to port this over to YouTube so our YouTube audience can watch it in the near future. And like I said, I hope we can do this again soon.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Have a great night,
take care, Ben. Good night, everybody. Thank you all for being here, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.